66%.
I know. Yeah. Friday.
Friday?
Yeah, no. Yes. Mine is you push it.
Today will be a very productive. Senate meetings are always my most productive.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Exactly, right? I love it. Is there any other CS majors?
Let me check.
You can check.
I have a spreadsheet of all the majors.
Oh. Someone said it. That was all the chips were. I got so many. I did already. Huh?
Only. Okay.
Good luck. Like actually, good luck. I'm leaving you in the town.
You'll hear about it.
Oh, I will. Once I'm hologram,
Thank you. I'm calculating my income now. Greenfield. I'm getting paid. No, but that's why I was.
do you have any plans for the summer?
Where are the rest of
I'm
them?
waiting to hear back.
Yeah, that's like been my experience.
I believe in you.
Good.
What are your plans for the summer? Fire! That's so good.
To staff, so I let staff, faculty, academic departments know your rights. I've done a whole bunch. We have the numbers. I don't have them off the top of my head. I've lost count. But just knowing your rights and having them tell students to know their rights and to come to us if there are any issues. We've gotten our name out there. I think our name recognition is a lot better than it has been since we both started almost 3 years ago. So that's a big part of what we're doing is know your rights and getting information out there. We've developed a safety planning worksheet. If you go to our website, www.umass.edu/SLSO, you go to our legal resources, immigration and visa issues, community safety planning worksheet. Okay, there's a list of things you can download, and for international students to fill out forms to prepare for the worst, right? We hope for the best, but we prepare for the worst. That's what I've been telling people, right? In case an international student does get picked up, then they have a system in place where we can get them the help they need as soon as possible, because timing is of the essence. And so also what I've been doing throughout the semester is developing a fairly robust immigration lawyer referral service. Going into the semester, we had 0 referral immigration attorney referrals. Now we have 15. These are private attorneys from this area, from Boston, New Hampshire, Providence, Hartford, Connecticut, who have said they're on board with helping international students. And it really is quite inspiring to see that immigration attorneys are really stepping up in this time of uncertainty and on the front lines of really a lot of what's happening now. And they have said that they will take UMass students. You probably have to pay for it. You know, it's not pro bono. These are private attorneys who are running a business. So there's that. And I'm working with admin to put together a system where perhaps it's not official yet. There's nothing in stone yet. We still have to work out the legalities, lawyers, logistics, release. You know, we have to look into everything. But using either the Angel Fund or something like the Angel Fund to defray the cost of hiring consultant fees and that first consultation. So that is in the I've been meeting with Shelley almost weekly now to figure this out, and we're going to get that up and running hopefully soon. But we'll see. All right. But in the meantime, let everyone know to go to our website, download this safety packet, and if anyone needs help, to come to us. All right. We have these attorneys ready to go. Hopefully we won't need them, but we're ready if we do. Okay, so get it out there. Let all of your international student friends know we're here to help, and we are building the resources to help. So that's what we've been doing. I've been talking a lot. I'll let Emily go.
So I just wanted to let you all know the SLSO is staffed by 2 attorneys presently. Attorney Farrell and I have been interim co-directors for a year and a half now.
Time has no meaning.
My primary practice areas are housing, landlord, tenant, employment, consumer protection. Attorney Farrell, on the other hand, handles immigration advice, visa advice, criminal advice, and family law. So if you know of any students who are in need of support in any of those areas, recognize Attorney Farrell has been really stepping up to the plate this past semester. Not only putting together workshops and participating in panels on campus, but the intakes that students can submit to meet one-on-one with Attorney Farrell have been going up. The numbers are going up. We've also reinstituted an Ask the Attorney confidential drop-in hour. I think you have 1 left.
1 more on Tuesday
this semester.
in person.
Yep. So students don't even have to submit an intake or schedule a time to drop by. I do one for housing issues, but Attorney Farrell does the immigration piece. And know that we are working eventually to get more attorneys staffed in our office. So it won't just be the 2 of us forever, but
We do work together well, but it would be nice to have help, yeah.
Yeah. So anyone who needs support, submit intakes to our office. They can download the intake form from our website, spread the word about the safety planning packet. The other piece, just to sort of clarify, because there has been a lot of panic and legitimate concern among students. We do not represent students in court on immigration matters at this time. Attorney Farrell can give advice. and referrals to attorneys who can actually represent a student in court if that's needed. So just to clarify that piece, so students understand what we're able to assist with and where we would refer to an outside attorney.
All right. Any question? Well, I guess we can open up for questions. I guess we don't want to keep you too late tonight. So obviously, you know how to reach us one-on-one, but if anyone has any general questions now, we'd be happy to field them.
Questions?
We answered all of your questions. Brilliant.
All right.
Well, thank you all very much. We appreciate the work that you're doing too, so thank you.
Thank you very
Humphreys. We have 5 more minutes of announcements.
Thank you very much, SLSO. I'm only going to take about 2 minutes here because I know Mike has an announcement he wants to do. So, first of all, just heads up, Saturday, SLSO is having their 50th anniversary gala, and I will be speaking at it. So, pretty cool stuff. But also, I'm here to talk a little bit about, I'm going to talk a little bit more about it later in the night, but SGA, GSS, or GSG, and the Office of Equity and Inclusion are partnering to support our international students here on campus. You may have seen around the room, a lot of people are wearing these wristbands to say, "We are one UMass." There's also a bunch here in the front of the row. If you want to take some, give them to your friends. There's a ton of them, so please do. And then on next Tuesday, there's going to be a banner drop, and students are encouraged to wear black. We are going to have a really quick resolution later in the night, which will recognize it as one UMass Day, or at least the SGA will be recognizing May 6th as that day, and will be also formally supporting the event and encouraging students to go. So please, please, please support this initiative. This is a great way we can support members of our community and raise awareness. And I think promoting general unity in a time like this is important. So if you haven't gotten one of these yet, please grab one at the front of the room, and I'll be back later in the night to talk about that resolution.
Thank you. Four minutes remaining.
Hey guys, got some good news. First of all, just a quick hand raise. Who here is 21 or over? Okay, based on that, I think you guys can kind of tell what's happening. We are very pleased to announce that after a lot of meetings, next Thursday, May 8th, from 7 to 10 p.m., the U Pub will be reopening for a pilot run. Thank you. As you guys might know, this is a big priority for me and Gianna, and I mean, ball's already rolling. What can you say? We're not even in office yet. We're already making moves.
Yes, and I will also let you know that the U Pub will be hosting a Jardy on that night. That is a jean party in which you should all be in denim. The U Pub will be serving free food. So when you get in there, I expect to see you grubbing up on some pizza and wings. And then you can purchase alcohol if you're above the age of 21. That alcohol will be the same beer and wine and seltzers, which are served at any other UMass event. So we hope to see you all there. Yes, questions? As of right now, it is first come, first serve. If that changes, you will see that reflected on the promotional material.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. All right, with 2 minutes remaining of the announcements period, does anyone else? Okay. All right, why don't we just line up? Associate Speaker Amaras has a quick one. And whoever gets to it first gets the time.
Hi, everyone. This is going to be like 2 seconds. I just wanted to make this while the bulk of the Senate is here right now. It's really imperative that we have quorum for this meeting and then next meeting especially, because that's when we're voting on the S1. So I just wanted to put that on everyone's radar. If you can't by any chance make it, or you know that you have something, a commitment, please email me so we can think of a backup way just in case like something happens. Maybe we don't have quorum to be able to have people here so that we can vote on the motions that are going up. Does that make sense? Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Secretary Heblow.
Hello. Hello. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So for the international student survey, there's an international student survey that's going to be sent out. It's already on the Instagram. I just want everyone to, it's anonymous. I'll be sending it out over email tonight. If everyone can just send it out to the friends, to everyone that they know, because we're getting a feedback about anything about any struggles that international students are having, and we're taking that into data to help international students for the next year, so that's shaking up them out next year. Any questions, comments, or concerns about that? Oh, thank you.
Senator Germain.
A couple days ago, I sent out a Google form to sign up for the Summer Coordinating Council. Haven't gotten too many responses yet, so please sign up for that. We need at least 6 senators for Summer Coordinating Council. I will resend out the form. Please fill it out. Thank you.
Senator Walker Hoover.
Good evening, y'all. Quick update. Yesterday, I met with the Boston Intercollegiate Government about there was their final GA assembly meeting, and met the new leadership, talked to them, and they're hopeful that maybe UMass Amherst can join them in the fall. And then tomorrow is the new member welcome for USSA. It's at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, open to all UMass student leaders, and they're looking excited to have UMass there. Thank you.
Quick announcement. Okay. All right.
Just kind of reiterating what Kenyatta said, send the survey out to your international student friends that you know. With moving forward with PR, we should be getting the responses from that and then posting a Q&A on our website, not our website, our Instagram really soon. So, and also just a reminder to submit PR requests through the form so I can get through them faster, but that's all.
Thank you. All right. The Associate Speaker will now record the roll call. Associate Speaker Amherst.
I'm just going to go through everyone's last names really quickly because we have a lot to do. Adeni, Ariola, Bauman, Beltrami, Black, Borowski, Uchisova, Centenaro, Chamu, DeMarco, Dami, Duarte, Betty, Eze, Chicio, Gato, Jermaine, Hercule, Hiranandani, Allahan, Ibrahim, Imran, Jame, Kim, Kim, Leclier, Lay, Lafort, Molesky, Malari, Mondo, Mazondo, Mello, Nashi, Nevins, Wen. Is that a here? Onyeka, Patak, Fawn, Prabhakar, Rabin, Rue, Sarna, Sharma, Shi, Stamen, Tao, Tren, Trung, Burma, Walker Hoover. Counts 42.
Nice. All right. With 42 voting members, a quorum is present. The minutes from the last Senate meeting were sent to everyone 48 hours prior. Are there any corrections to the minutes? With no corrections, the minutes stand approved. All right. As for Committee of the Whole, there does exist a couple of reasons to call in the session. Those being the presentation of the 2025 S1 by Chair Stamen and bystander training by Chair Onyeka and the Social Justice and Empowerment Committee. The Senate will now stand in recess and the Committee of the Whole shall be in session to discuss those 2 items. Parliamentary procedure suspended. And, all right. Chair invites up Chair Stamen. Okay. All right. Bystander training. Welcome up, Chair Onyeka.
Hello. Hi, everyone. How are we doing? Okay. My name is Esther. This is the Social Justice and Empowerment Committee, the best committee in SGA. But this is bystander training, so let's get along with it. So, sorry. What is a bystander? A bystander is a person who observes a conflict or unacceptable behavior. How they react determines what kind of bystander they are. So imagine you're being harassed in public for your identity. It's a very scary, isolating feeling. Now imagine this is happening and people are walking around and they notice that it's happening and they don't do anything. That's not really a great feeling. And right now, currently, is this like socio-political climate and like things like that are happening often. It's important that we're vigilant and know how to be active bystanders in cases like this. So there are 5 Ds to bystander intervention: distract, delegate, document, delay, and direct. And my committee members are going to talk about each of those.
Okay, so the first D is distract, which is a subtle way to intervene in a situation aiming to derail a situation by interrupting it. So some good key ideas, do not take that typo, is to focus your attention on the victim. Don't ever direct your attention to the harasser. Keep it on the victim. And do not discuss the situation at hand either. Try to keep that situation off topic. An example is getting in the way by, like, don't stop what you're doing, but get in the way somehow to prevent the situation from escalating. Also, act like you know the victim, like start a random conversation, like act like you're their friend to make them feel comfortable. And lastly, create an accidental scene. You could like pretend to spill something or drop something, just always taking the attention away from the victim and never putting it on the harasser.
Okay, so delegate means seeking assistance from a third party to intervene. This approach can be used if you're uncomfortable with directly intervening, but basically you can go ask someone in a position of authority, or someone above you, someone nearby who might be better equipped to handle the situation. So key points are to identify a delegate, look for someone who's ready and willing to help. This could be a person in authority, security guard, teacher, just anyone around it seems to be more equipped than you. Explain the situation, briefly explain the situation to them so they can understand why the help is needed. And then you stay nearby just to monitor it and make sure if they need anything from you, you can provide support and ensure like the person intervenes correctly. And an example for Senate is, imagine a scenario where during SGA, during our Senate meeting, a senator witnesses another senator being verbally harassed by a member. The witness kind of feels uncomfortable, so they go to, let's say, chairperson or literally anyone else in a position of higher authority, and they would take the further steps.
Document. Come on, guys, document. It's not snitching. It's making sure that there's a proper record of the event. And obviously, you'd have to have permission from the person that's the victim to even talk about the event, but you would document it and make sure that the proper authorities are aware of what happened with the victim's consent. Consent is important.
Oh, we don't have to watch the video. Just like it's in the supplemental material, so y'all can look back at it. But yeah.
So the next one up is delay, and so. Sorry, my voice is all out of whack today. But delay is essentially talking about when it's difficult to intervene quickly and you've witnessed somebody be harassed. After the fact, it's about checking in with people and affirming that the victim is safe and that they feel okay. So you can really minimize the amount of like traumatic after effect and validate their experiences. You can do this by, reassuring them that what you saw, what they saw, and that it wasn't an okay thing to do. You can ask for their thoughts on the situation to let them kind of speak out and process it. Sorry. You can ask about how they want to be supported, or offer to walk them to their destination if they're going somewhere, or just sit with them so that they don't have to feel alone while it's going on.
You can also give them any known resources that you have where they can report what you saw or what they went through. And if you got any documentation, you can share it with them or share it with the person you got to intervene.
Okay, so here's our next one. Just being direct, it's also it's the most straightforward one, but unfortunately, it's also the most risky out of all these options. So it's just what it sounds like. If you see someone like being harassed or being threatened by someone, you just go up to them and be like, "Hey, like, what's your problem? Hey, can you please stop? Why are you doing this to this person?" But the biggest pitfall of this is just if it threatens their safety or your safety too much to the point where it would just make things worse. Not just the safety of that person, but also it's like you can't help anyone if you will be threatened yourself. So do not do this if the situation is excessively dangerous. I say in that case, just try to get help from somewhere else. Oh, and here are more specific criteria for direct intervention. Are you physically safe? Is a person being harassed physically safe? Does it seem unlikely that the situation will escalate? And can you tell if the person being harassed wants someone to speak up? So if it fits all these criteria, then you really should just be direct. You should just shoot your shot. Not in the romantic way, like in the way where you save someone. Shoot your shot.
Hello. Okay. So to add on to that, these are just like extra tips to be mindful of with direct intervention. Just make sure you say only what you need to say and be very straightforward about it, because this can prevent things from escalating. So like resist the urge to delve into a full-fledged argument, and obviously prioritize safety for you and the victim, and also keep your safe self first is like the most important. Safety is the whole point, and you can't help anyone if you can't keep yourself safe. And some examples of direct intervention, just being very straightforward, like calling someone out, saying like that's inappropriate, that's homophobic, and like these are just examples. And yeah.
So we have a little scenario, and I want you guys to tell me what you would do in this case. So let's say at the end of a very contentious Senate meeting, we had like a motion that came up, a lot of arguments, as we do. And let's say at the end, in the corner, two senators are talking, and one of them is like, "You're so stupid. Why would you vote for this? Whatever." And it's really loud. Like we all hear it. We're all like getting ready to leave. So if it was like a full-fledged argument, what would you do in this situation? There's a couple different D's to use. So like, let me know, what would you guys do in this situation? You can raise your hand and let me know and how you would do it. So I know that you guys are paying attention. Kat, do you have a microphone?
I feel like that could be a good opportunity to just be direct. Like, you don't have to make it very loud. Just go over and like quietly say to them, like, this is a good conversation to maybe have elsewhere or in a more safe environment or in a different manner than you are, and just like be mindful of like this vote already happened. There's nothing you can do, and like pushing them to like move on maybe.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good one. Anyone else? No? Okay, that's fine. Thank you guys. That's it.
Thank you so much, Sojek, for putting that together for us. I see Chair Stayman outside. We're now going to transition to the presentation of the annual SGA S1 Budget Act. We have to do this by the third to last meeting of every single spring semester. This is the third to last meeting. All right. Please welcome Chair Stayman. You have the floor.
Hey everyone. Oh, it's working now? Yes, it's working now. Good evening. How are we doing? Okay, good energy. I have so today we're going to be discussing the S1. I'm going to be walking you guys through what happened in our numbers meeting this Friday. That is what this presentation is for. It is meant for you guys to be as informed as possible regarding the decision making that happened in that meeting, how we got to where we are, so that when we have our meeting next week, we're able to comfortably vote, fully informed, transparency, all that. Sound good? Yeah? Okay. Let's start off with a quick review. So I'm going to walk you guys through the process for those of you who are not familiar. So we're going to start off. First thing that happens is Ways and Means starts reviewing the RSO and agency budgets. We're done. We finished that. Okay? Next is the numbers meeting. This happened on Friday. And then the next thing is our Senate. Hello. Please look up eyeballs. Thank you. The Senate's responsibility regarding the SGA S1 is that we need to vote to approve the S1. You guys need to approve the decisions the Ways and Means Committee made, the decisions I made, and make sure we did not mess up. That is your job. That is why I'm presenting in front of you today. And then after we approve that, guess who gets it? The Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs and the Governor of Massachusetts also has to approve these allocation decisions. But this is review, guys, right? We covered this in our finance training. Do we remember this? Yes, thank you, my wonderful Ways and Means Committee. Okay, so now my job as the chair, once we reviewed all the budgets, is to figure out how we're slicing up the pie, so to speak. The pie meaning the SATF pie. However, no, we're gonna be here, that's fine. However, for me to figure that out, I tried to look at the S1 that we looked at last year. Has anyone seen the S1 from last year? Do we remember looking at it? Yes? Okay, you're gonna have a brief review and I'm actually gonna show it to you in a different format. Now you can. Okay, so the FY25 S1 is a pie chart. All right, take a look at this graph over here. What do you see? Please stop talking. You have a pie chart over here. And this is actually showing you what piece of the pie goes where on our S1, okay? So what are the biggest chunks of the pie? What do you see here? Who's getting the biggest chunks of the pie on this SATF? Yes. RSOs is one. What's the second one? Yes, Ishan. Agencies. Fantastic. And that is how they should be, because why? It's students who are funding RS1 and the money should really be going back to the students. Does that make sense? Great. So I looked at this and I was like, well, we want to make sure that the RSOs and agencies are still getting the biggest chunks of the S1. But how am I supposed to do that? I don't know. We're about to tell you. When I first found out that I had to do this, this was my face. I did not know what the hell I was doing, did not know how to approach this. And so, help, I don't know. So, next slide. Here's the idea, and here's what we ended up doing in our meeting on Friday. Take a look at this. Do we remember this spreadsheet? Don't click anything yet. Do we remember this spreadsheet? Guys, you guys look so dead. Can you please wake up? Do we remember this spreadsheet? We looked
There's
at this.
pizza and sugary drinks over there.
We looked at this in October. This spreadsheet has two columns here. The first one is the SGA approved S1 from last year, and the second column is the projected S1. Slight problem with the SGA approved S1. Do we remember what that was? It landed us in a financial deficit. That was what the problem was. So I can't really use this to make financial decisions. What I did end up using was our projected S1, okay? Because this is actually details real life information on how the money is being spent. Now, there's a number I want you to pay attention to here. You're gonna see it in 2 seconds again. It's highlighted in red. What is it? What does that number represent? Does anyone know? Is anyone paying attention? I'm also really sorry. I'm really hyper and on a lot of coffee. So this is how I'm presenting to you today. Any ideas on what this number is? It's highlighted in red. Cody. Yes, it is the projected total expenses. Good job. So this is the column we're going to pay attention to. You can click now, Melina. It's highlighted in red. If it's important, it's in red. Remember that. All right, next slide. Okay, so what am I supposed to do with this information? Any ideas? Okay, we're going to do some math real quick. So look at this wonderful table I have here. I'm not expecting us to go back and forth between the projected S1. So I did actually outline everything for you guys in here. I don't know who's a finance guru, who's a math guru, who really wants this information. But to be completely transparent, this is what I ended up doing to figure out an idea of a funding model, okay? So I took a look. This column here has the amount of money that we were projecting for all these line items to use up. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's what this line is here. Total budget, that is our total expenses, okay? So I did a very, very basic algebra, guys. A baby could do it, okay? We're gonna take this 1.5 mil over here, and we're dividing it by that 4 mil up there. And that was how we figured out each chunk of the pie, the percentages in red. Does that make sense? Okay, so if you really wanted to do it, and if you're interested, you can sit there and do it on your calculator. I don't recommend, but you could. So this is the column we're paying attention to. We good? We following? Thank you. All right, moving on. Okay, well, does this actually end up working? This looks, no! You spoiled it! Pretend like you didn't see that. Does this end up working, do you think? No way! Okay, yes, this doesn't end up working. Why? This seems like a solid funding model. What could possibly be wrong with this? Any ideas? None? Okay, I'm gonna give you guys a little hint. There are 3 goals that every chair of Ways and Means, well, not 3 things that a chair has to keep in mind when making allocation decisions. The first one is that we're really, at all costs, trying to avoid an ending fund balance that is, that is actually one. I was not expecting you to get that. Negative was the one I was going for. But yes, we want to avoid a deficit. So when I went with this funding model and just like as a draft, went in there and allocated based off of these percentages, surprise, surprise, I ended up with a negative ending fund balance. Guys, I don't know if you're aware, we already have a slight concern about a deficit that we may or may not be entering. Don't really want to add on to that. Probably a good idea. So this did not work, okay? Okay, so what do we do now? What do we do now? Any ideas? Well, unfortunately, if this doesn't work, the next thing we need to start doing is we need to start getting that money back. We need to start cutting. Yes. Okay, so who did we cut? I think this is the first time I've heard people be excited about that fact. But the first thing we actually cut was SLSO salaries. So funny story with this one. Before we freak out, I can already hear the freak out happening. Pause for a minute, just pay attention. SLSO, they are an agency. They are very important. Why did we cut their salaries? So, funny story, when they submitted their payroll expenses for this year, it included 2 positions that were not filled yet, and they had search committees searching for those positions. One of those search committees has stopped looking and is actually estimating that they're going to hire this person in December 1st. We were notified this literally Friday morning, and we were told that we can comfortably adjust the number to reflect that we are hiring this person on December 1st. So that is why this number has been adjusted. Does that make sense? Okay. I literally heard this from their boss, guys. So like I could not get any more reliable information than that. So deep breaths. By the way, if there's any questions about anything I'm saying right now, Please write it down. Ask me when I'm done presenting, because I don't want this to be a 2-hour long thing. Does that make sense? Okay. So that was the first thing. Okay, but this is still kind of maybe fine, right? Okay, so what happened? Does this work? Do we think this works? We're out of the deficit, maybe? Nah. No, we're not. We're not. So, okay, we have to continue cutting, unfortunately. So, what is the next thing I cut? Any guesses? Nope. Not there yet. Good guess, though. Next. The DIA fund. So, funny story, guys. Before we freak out about the DIA fund as well, because we love the DIA fund. I love DIA. I love Anaya, who manages DIA as well. We have funded some really cool initiatives with that. We gave DIA a lot more money last year than I ever remember. And DIA has not used up all that money. We had money actually rolling over. So DIA, according to the SGA not funding bylaws, has a minimum mandated amount. And that is this 100,000 here, okay? So we funded DIA at 100,000. It's always historically been funded at this amount. Does that make sense? Are we okay with this? Okay, again, any concerns, any questions, please write them down. All right, moving on. Does this work? What about now? What do we think? Does this work?
No.
No! Why? Exactly. No. Okay, so what now? We have to continue cutting, right? We have to get this money back. All right, moving on. All right, so emergency. That's the next thing we cut. Funny story about the emergency fund. You would think that we have a minimum mandated amount for that somewhere in the SGA bylaws. We don't. So this was a very interesting discovery for me Friday morning. So it is now at this 5,000 number. Again, the goal was really trying to get this money back so we can fund our RSOs and agencies and SGA and all our really important things at the amounts we really need to fund them at, right? Okay. Does this work? No. Thank you, Jill. No, it does not. Why would that work?
All right, guys, there's just some chit chat going on. This is really, really important that we all focus and listen in on this because you have to vote on this in a week. So please give Chair Stamen your undivided attention. Thank you.
Michael. Okay, no, this doesn't work. Moving on. Okay. Has anyone heard of this line item? Does anyone know what this is? Oh, some of us have. How many people have not heard of it? Can I just get a raise of hands? Okay, thank you for being honest because I also forgot what this did. This equipment expense line item, it actually funds, if you guys go downstairs to the SGA office, big ass table, chairs, offices. How do you think that was funded? This bad boy right here. That's where that funding came from. That's probably where our fridge came from as well. So we have not used the money in this fund for quite a few years now after we've, remodeled that office. So this was the next thing I cut down to 1,000. So we can still purchase our bookshelves if we need it. I know we have a new textbook loaning program that's coming out. So we'd still be able to fund that with this. That's the next thing I cut. Still okay? Perfect. Okay. Does this work? Are we now where we need to be? No. No. Okay, so now this is where we start panicking. This is where I'm like, okay, I have cut all the things I could possibly reasonably with good conscience, good conscience cut. What do I do now? Well, we're going to take a pause. We need to figure out, okay, what line items do I have left that I could possibly put cuts into? And it turned out those line items were our RSOs, our agencies, and the SGA budget. All the other line items on the S1 are either our mandated expenses, which are salaries, or the copyright, which we have an agreement on.
Mandated by whom?
By
contract.
By contract, legal contracts, thank you. Copyright, same thing. We have a legal contract. So There was nothing else I could have cut. And this is the three things I was left with. And the ending fund balance was still in the negative. So the question I had to ask myself is, okay, I have these three line items left, and the cut I have to make is quite significant, like in the dollar value. We were talking hundreds, thousands, guys. So 100,000, not hundreds and thousands, 100,000. So if I cut one of these line items individually, it would have been a decimating impact, not on RSOs. Well, it would have been, if I just put it to RSOs, we would have destroyed our RSOs. I had already foreseen an across-the-board cut of 69%, and I really did not want to increase that by any means necessary. Same thing with our agencies. Same thing with SGA. Really do not want to be cutting either one of these by 100,000. So I had to ask myself, what do I do when I'm faced with this kind of a situation? So what I ended up doing? Spread it out. We spread it out amongst the three, okay? So next one. Okay, click. All right, so RSO allocations. If you remember in October, this was our estimate. This is the new estimate, the 1,370,000. Okay, this made it so that across the board cuts did not go up like 5%, more like 2%. Still not great, still don't love it, but it's better than what I was looking at originally. Yeah, you get a nice little image here. Cute. All right, agency allocations, similar story. I'm gonna emphasize here that these are their operational expenses we're looking at right now. I factored out their payroll and all this stuff. So in October, when we were having like fee increase conversations, do you remember I did these like estimates and I tried to figure out what the fee increase impact would look like? So I was working with like the 787,000 number here. Again, an estimate in October. We're in the spring. So in actuality, the allocations are like 700,000 with the cuts I put in, okay? So again, not fantastic, but better than it would have been if I just cut this line item by itself. Does that make sense? Okay, next one. All right, SGA budget. Similar story. Press again. There you go. Similar story. The SGA post Ways and Means was supposed to get this amount. They ended up getting 250,000. Okay. Again, not great, but this is how we ended up when Jen and I tried to crunch the numbers. This was the best case scenario we came up with. Okay, to keep our S1 in a healthy state and to prevent as many people from crying as possible. Okay, next one. All right, and that's really it. So that is our S1, guys. Those are all the major decisions. And then if you would like to look at the spreadsheet I made, you can. Michael, if you can, or so whoever's managing this can click on the link right here. Yeah, that's a link. And so this is the spreadsheet I made. These were, you don't have to scroll all further down. This is fine. This is a spreadsheet I made. And these are the percentages here. Percentages of the pie. And this is our ending fund balance that we're looking at now. We don't want it to be 0. We don't want it to be negative, but we do want it to be 2% of our incoming revenue. In case these projections change in any way, we have that cushion to save us in case worst case scenario happens. Okay. I am now ready for questions. I am done now.
All right, given our long agenda, let's just try to keep questions very concentrated, very direct. Chair Stamen, you can handle the questions.
Attorney General Cook.
Okay, so I kind of just wanted to make a comment about the director search and how the salary has now been reflected to have a higher starting December 1st. I just want everybody to know that the committee, the SLSOAC, was not notified of the decision to stop the search committee looking for that director. I actually received an email later Friday being notified of that. And that's something that we were actively trying to do within SLSO to get that director position filled. So that's something I want all of us to keep in mind as the next year is coming about. And we want to prioritize that search as our SLSO is struggling. With only 2 attorneys, they have a large workload. And for us as students, when we work with them, it's hard for them to even respond to our emails and such because they're so inundated. So I think obviously, as we've seen now, that director search may be postponed completely and we may not have a director in by December 1st. But I think that we should all keep in mind that that's something that we need to have and need to have a priority to address and to kind of solve that issue because currently
is there a question?
I'm going to ask a question at the end. Thanks. So my question is,
Have a time limit that we're trying to.
right.
Okay.
Michael,
All
I
right.
understand. My question is was that considered that the committee was not asked at all in that regard, or that that committee was not made aware of that director search was going to be totally kind of disbarred till December 1st?
To answer your question, I made this decision, what was it, Friday morning. I had found out about it in that meeting. I was not told who was notified or who wasn't. I was just told that there was a meeting with HR, I believe, and that HR had advised that it's not a good idea to continue the search as of right now, and that I could hypothetically, like, I could have reflected that in the S1, that we were not going to hire this person starting December 1st. This is all the information I know. I wasn't told who knew and who didn't. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
really
no,
all.
totally not like your thing there. But then one follow-up question to that: do you think that cutting the salary essentially is like, what do you think that that sets precedent for, or do you think it does set a precedent in financial terms for future Ways and Means committees?
In the sense of it doesn't really set precedent. I don't really understand your question about setting precedent. Ways and Means does not look at the full-time staff payroll at all. Like, we are expecting on the Ways and Means side of things, we are expecting to fully fund those staff every single year. It does not really set precedent for the chair of Ways and Means either, because the chair usually, historically speaking, never touches mandated expenses. SLO salary is considered to be a mandated expense, but I was told that I can comfortably do this year, as this person is not going to be hired starting December 1st. It doesn't set precedent because, again, the next chair of Ways and Means, they can do whatever they want. It's a new process. New process, new rules. The precedents that we set only apply during that term or during that year that we are in our positions for. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, we've never seen a salary kind of adjusted in this way. So that was just why I wanted to ask what you were thinking about it in terms of that, because again, I just have never seen it. So
Yeah, I think JD, do you have a clarification on? Okay.
No, I just wanted to be clear. This is not being postponed in any way, shape, or form. What we've been told was that this is not practical to be filled by December 1st. We just don't have time to do so. By September 1st, excuse me. We just don't have the time. These searches take months, and they won't do it over the summer when there's no students here, because this is a student-funded organization. And so they insist on students fully participating in that process. So when we conveyed that information to Maya, we let her know that practically speaking, we're not going to have someone in here this fall. And so that is why this isn't being cut. We just were able to work with the budget and reduce that amount, because realistically, we were not going to spend that.
Right, and so if it wasn't being spent, then it would have just returned at the end of the fiscal year. And so, but that would still impact the across-the-board cuts that agencies are experiencing.
Actually, it would not.
No?
Yeah. So
Well, if the money is allocated that particular line item?
Payroll is a mandated expense. So I have it set as a separate line item that we have to fully fund because of the legal contracts that exist. There's no across the board cuts that I'm giving to that. Agency operational expenses, I can cut that and I can give across the board cuts to that. Those are the things that are experiencing across the board cuts.
Yeah, excuse me. I guess what I meant was that money will now be dedicated to other things that are being requested. Yes. And that's correct. Okay. We'll continue with questions.
I have a question. Be calling on people. Who said that? Who has a question?
Me. Esther Maya.
Oh, hi. Yes.
Just a quick question. I know that at the end of the year, all the money that RSOs have in their fee account goes back into the SATF, I believe. Will that be reallocated as well, or is that just going to go to the 82,000 that we have left over?
That's a fantastic question. Yes, so the money does roll over and we do reallocate it. However, with these allocations that I'm working with, I am working with projections. So I am fully expecting the RSOs to spend all their money. I'm working with worst case scenario. You spend all your money, there's nothing rolling back because I can't rely on that. And I have no way of measuring how much is coming back into the S1 right now, especially given that when this meeting was conducted, the payroll requests were still going through. Purchase requests, sorry. So yes, it does roll over, and yes, it is reallocated. I just didn't account for it here because I'm accounting for absolute worst case scenario. I saw Abby first, and then I will go to that side of the room.
Okay. Sorry. So on the DF fund slide, I believe you said typically every year that fund gets about 100K. I think you said last year it was higher. Do you know how much higher it was?
Melina, can you actually go back to my presentation, please? And the Google slidey thingy. And then if you can go, it's towards the beginning, very, very beginning. Excuse SpongeBob, guys. Nope, past that. Nope. Is it here? Yeah, Dia was given 150K last year.
Okay, was that? I mean, from my understanding, that's atypical. So do you know why? Sorry if you.
Yeah, no, I can. So, trying to come up with a very short explanation for this one, but yes. So what happened in the numbers meeting last year is there was an optimistic estimation and projection that was made about how much money we actually had coming into the SATF, and the wrong number was given to us. So we thought we had more money to work with. And so with that, the former chair of Ways and Means said, well, if I have more money to work with, let's give that money back to the RSOs and let's put more into DIA. Let's give more to emergency. So that's really what happened here. But it turned out we did not have that money. That was not money we had. And again, I'm going to call it an optimistic projection that was made. But yes, does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, and this is I'm so sorry, 2-second follow-up. Did we end up spending all of that, or is there rollover for next year?
There is rollover. I believe it's around 19K. Or no, Dia? Yes. Yes, Dylan? 35. I gave you the complete wrong number. 35K.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, I think I saw Charles.
You might have just answered it. I did the calculations of this, and RSO allocations was wrong, but you might have answered that.
Yeah, the RSO allocations that we gave last year, was based off of incorrect numbers. So that's why I went off of projections instead, because that was the actual amount that we were projecting to spend, and I thought that was more accurate fiscal data. That's really what I was doing there. But yeah. Kenyatta.
Hello. In regards to like the SLSO like director search and stuff, it was said like that by UMass administration that it wasn't expected for December 1st, like hire process. So you said September 1st?
I said December 1st. We're
December.
expecting.
Okay. So it's December 1st. Do you know how that decision was made to like that it wouldn't be expected for December 1st considering the SLSO
We are expecting for the person to be in the position on December 1st.
you're expecting? Okay.
They halted, the search committee was not able to find someone when they were in session this year, and they have halted the search because they need students to be involved and they can't work over the summer.
Okay.
Is from what I understood.
Okay.
And so by the time they resume, by the time they start searching, they're expecting someone to be hired on December 1st.
On December 1st. Okay.
Which is not a full year position anymore.
Okay. Thank you.
I think I missed that part of the presentation, but DIA fund is going back down to 100,000.
Yes,
correct?
ma'am.
Perfect.
I already have it. Yeah. I just wanted to ask about the emergency fund because I know that is like a fund that's I think clubs come in and use a lot.
Yes.
I saw it went down like drastically to like
Yes,
5,000.
ma'am.
So I just like wanted to like ask like, so how's that gonna work like next year?
So fantastic question. Obviously, it is up to the chair of finance subcommittee and the speaker, and how they work that out. The emergency fund is actually a fairly newer financial resource, but it manages two things: not just the emergency fund, but startup funds. We had a bunch of groups access startup funds this year, so the finance subcommittee chair can choose to only allocate this 5,000 for startup funds, and we can adjust. They can spend the rest of their time maybe focusing on supporting the chair of Ways and Means more. That's obviously a discussion for the next administration, but I know that's kind of a wishy-washy answer, but I'm not here next year. I can only this would be like my opinion though, what I'm saying to you. This is not like factual information I'm giving. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other questions? Great. No?
I'll also add that, the reason why we have to present this a week in advance is so that we have time to ask questions after if they come up. So if anything does come up, just direct them our way, and Chair Stamen will be happy to help.
Okay. We're good? Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chair Stamen, and the Ways and Means Committee as well. All right. We're going to do a Secretary Bellreeve's going to make a presentation on the fall 2024 audit. We were planning to do this during his report out, but he is here, which is awesome. So we're going to do it right now. Secretary Bellreeve.
Sorry, thought I edited that to say fiscal year 24 audit. Ignore that. But, oh, you're good. You can just go to the next slide. So basically, I finished the spring semester audit, so I have the full data for the whole year, which I'm presenting right now. But quick, I'm just going to do a recap of last semester's for those of you who were not here for that. So you can scroll. Oh, this is just the process. So I do it random selection. I did 20 groups, well, 20 RSOs, one agency. And then the spring, you also are supposed to do the SGA. So I did the SGA as well. Notified those groups that they were randomly selected. I then requested the reports from SACL Finance, and I got their budgets and the things they spent money on for the last fiscal year. And then I got the results, and I emailed those all out. Finally finished emailing them today, and here's the report. So for a recap, or real quick, in the fall, there was 15 RSOs, and the agency that I selected passed. So that's about 76.2% who passed. And then a few other statistics. The average utilization rate was 58.6%. meaning out of all the groups, the average was 58.6% used, and the rest was left unused and went back into the SATF. There was 9.23% of the money returned, which you notice is a little different than what was left over after the utilization rate. That's just because the groups who had less money usually had a lower utilization rate, meaning that less money actually went back in. Just a quick explanation on that. And then 5 RSOs were found in violation, but none of them purchased ineligible items. It was just items that they had not budgeted for. So now we come to the spring results. Yay! So exciting. So 13 RSOs, 1 agency, and the SGA passed the auditing process with no violations of SGA or university spending policies. So a little bit of a lower percentage, but around the same average. So nothing too crazy there. As for the statistics, 64.05 utilization rate, so a little bit higher than the fall semester, but again, nothing too crazy. 2 groups didn't use any of their funds. So without those 0% utilization rates, it was about 70%. And only 1 group actually used the entirety of their budget. So the money returned, it was about 20.8%, which is actually double the amount from last semester. I mean, yeah. So that was $105,000 returned out of the entire $523,000 that me and my treasurer looked at. And then 31.8% failed, that's 7 RSOs. And 2 groups actually purchased ineligible line items, which I was not expecting to find actually. So that was a little interesting, I guess. And then just in summary, all of it taken together, a 72.1 average, which is a pretty good statistics, I would say. I don't know, I guess it could be better, obviously, but you know, not as bad. That's a passing score, guys. Come on now. And then the average of these, utilization rate was averaged at around 61.33%. About 16.2% of the money was returned in the entirety of the $814,000 that I looked at. And then 12 RSOs were found in violation. That is a 27.9% failure rate. And that is it, to be continued next year. Woo! Thank you. And if anyone has any questions, please. Oh, yep. Yeah.
So wait, this is the first time you guys have done this, right? Right?
So there was one done last year, but it was strictly for data purposes. So it was done, but the previous Secretary of Finance and Treasurer just looked at it for the utilization rate data and then presented that. There wasn't any formal consequences attached to it.
So do you think now that people know this is going to be happening often, like accountability wise, like people will be smarter with their money and like what they buy?
Yeah, so they were notified last year, which, you know, kind of clued them into the idea that this would start happening. And I sent another introductory email this year discussing what the process would look like and sending out the guidelines. And, you know, each group that I did audit, I emailed with them if they had questions and explained to them that it would be a yearly process. So I think now groups should hopefully be smarter with their purchases and make sure they're sticking to our guidelines. And the next Secretary of Finance will submit their own audit guidelines over the summer. So
For the ineligible line items, were those things that were purchased successfully and then you've caught after? And like, do you know about how much money that was worth?
yeah, so it was just a few items, but yes, they were approved by the source, which is great to hear. So there was personalized uniforms purchased for one team, and there was food for a private event purchased by another group. And those are both approved by the source advisors. So that was caught after. Unfortunately, it wasn't, I don't have the exact number on me, but it was about 100 total, like $100. So it wasn't anything too extreme, but I did reach out to those groups and I will be in contact about that. So
Did you talk to Source about it afterwards?
I'm going to be in contact. I just finished the process today and notified the group, so I'll have to reach out to them.
Okay, thank you.
So what's the process for selecting the RSOs and the agency?
Yeah, so I have a whole spreadsheet of all the groups that I got from the source, and I put them in a random wheel generator, and I spin the wheel, and then that group gets selected. And then I have my treasurer observe to make sure that I'm staying viewpoint neutral. So
So I'm a little new. So what happens when, RSOs, file ineligible line items? Is there like any penalties or punishments? Like,
yeah, sorry for all the new people. I didn't even go over that. That's my bad. So if they are found to be purchasing things that aren't initially allocated for it in their budget, they will get a warning for this year. And then if they're found, and that will stay on the record for 5 years. And if they get audited again and found again in violation, they'll get frozen. But if they purchase an eligible line item, the guidelines say that I have to talk to the advisor and the group and see where that mix-up came up, and then the guidelines leave discretion for me to decide what to do based on how that was even approved, because I don't want to punish necessarily the RSO by freezing them if the advisor should have done their job and not approved it. So it'll be up to discretion for if it's an eligible line item. I honestly didn't expect to find any, but we'll see what happens from those conversations.
one more question.
Yeah.
When they're frozen, what's that process like?
Yeah, so the freeze, at least for if they're found in violation 2 times, will last for the remainder of that fiscal year. Basically, it prevents them from using any fee money on purchases at all for the rest of the year. And then if they're frozen at the time of submitting their budget, they also aren't allowed to request for the following year. But then the freeze will be removed at the beginning of the next fiscal year.
Mic check. Okay. So it's my understanding that when the auditing is done, for like when you're checking for ineligibles, it's based on what was deemed ineligible for like the last fiscal year when you're auditing.
Yeah, the guidelines from that year. Yeah.
Is there any way to like that the precedence on what is deemed ineligible is like kept in the record so it's like, easier?
So it's just the ineligible line items from the guidelines, from the Ways and Means guidelines of that year that I use. So it'd be different because the guidelines change every year. So it's just based on that.
There's just a couple more questions.
So what I don't really understand about this is like, if an RSO requests a budget initially, they have like all the stuff they want to buy, but then they're going to get like across the board cuts. So I feel like it would make sense that the RSO budget is like using the money for something slightly different because they literally can't buy all the stuff that they originally requested. So like, what if they found a cheaper option? Like, are we penalizing people for that?
So no, first off, they don't have to buy everything in their budget. That's not what I'm looking at. No. But as for that, so the way it appears on my end, if they can be approved for things that they didn't initially request for, but they have to have a meeting with the advisor, and the advisor has to ask them and make sure to check that the purchase is necessary and they couldn't have anticipated it the year prior. And that'll show up on my end as a note. I talked to Sacco about that when I first started making the guidelines. So if there is anything like that, and the groups went through the proper process and explained the need for the different item, then it would not have been flagged in the audit process.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Bellreed. All right, we're making good time. The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn the committee of the whole. Senator Nevins. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. All those abstain say abstain. All right. Senate will be in order, and the committee of the whole previously called in session stands adjourned. All right. The Senate will now consider our cabinet appointments. Before we begin with this, though, I would like to provide a reminder that, as we navigate this section of the agenda, we should be very respectful and professional in the questions that we're asking these appointees. Your questions should be of a factual nature, addressing the appointees' qualifications according to their application material, which you can find attached to the motions packet. Any accusatory statements or questions, for that matter, will not be tolerated. And now I'll just give a rundown of what each appointee can expect. So each appointee will have at most 2 minutes for an introduction. So that could be the president or vice president-elects introducing the appointee, or the appointee introducing themselves and what they're excited for. And then each appointee will yield for 4 factual questions. A brief follow-up will be allowed if necessary. And each question will have 2 minutes. And then the chair will give a 30-second warning. Does that make sense? Senator Germain.
Just for clarification, that 2 minutes, does that include the question and the answer?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Well, with that said, the Senate will now consider S96, a motion to appoint Haley Martin to the position of Chief of Staff. All cabinet appointments were reviewed by the Administrative Affairs Committee on 4/24 and were reported favorably. The chair now recognizes the sponsorship.
I'm actually going to motion to table this one until next week. Haley Martin is currently in. No, it's not. That's embarrassing. Anyways, I'm going to motion to table this until next Senate meeting because Haley Martin is currently in Prague and could not be here tonight. Do
All right.
a second?
Yes. Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of tabling S96 until the next Senate meeting, which will be on May 7th. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. All those who abstain, say abstain. All right. The ayes have it. Accordingly, S96 will be tabled until May 7th. The Senate will now consider S97, a motion to appoint Dale Leone to the position of Secretary of Finance. Sponsorship is recognized for their factual description, which is the introduction of the candidate. 2 minutes, starting now.
Perfect. We are honored to introduce and speak in support of Dale Leone's nomination to the role of Secretary of Finance. Dale is incredibly qualified and has demonstrated a track record of an unwavering commitment to the SGA, the students he serves, and a commitment to the mission and values that will drive this organization forward. A few notes from his interview that we found most important in his hiring. He demonstrated a commitment to the expansion and the growth of the auditing process. He reflected a lot of common interests that are held among the senators, at least that I have seen while I've been here. For example, the obvious redirection of focus and care to RSOs, and also other more focused scopes like food and security initiative. When we asked Dale if he could go back and change one thing from the beginning of his term, and I took this advice, if he could go back, he would address problems up front rather than letting them fester into drama and gossip. That is an answer which we loved. And he also demonstrated a commitment to change, which we have already been observing, and that we are proud to march forth into the next administration. On a different day for a different administration, another candidate may have been the fit, but Michael and I are confident in our nomination and believe that Dale is the right fit for our administration. We look forward to discussing the promising future of our nomination. And finally, I'm going to say it, be humble and kind, always.
30 seconds remaining.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I'll just keep it really brief. I'm really excited for this opportunity to hopefully be here this other semester and really work on these financial reforms that we've been doing this year with the external reviewers and implement a lot of positive change next year. So yeah, that's kind of all I got. I'll open up to questions.
All right. Questions for the appointee. Senator Edgley. Reminder of the 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. So in your application, you said that you worked very closely with the Ways and Means process. Were you ever entrusted with managing or reconciling any line item funding, or were you in a purely advisory or observational role?
Yeah, so I've been in an advisory and observation role throughout my time working with Ways and Means Committee. So like when I became vice president-elect last year, I attended all the Ways and Means Committee meetings. And so through that, I actually kind of got like my first experience with the Ways and Means process. And throughout the year, I kind of worked really close with Dylan, and I've observed some of the other Ways and Means problems. So I'm really looking forward to kind of look and see what needs to be changed in terms of recommendations we get from like the external reviewers for the SGA processes specifically, and then work to change kind of our processes that need to be changed that way. Did that kind of answer? I don't know if I fully grabbed the full question.
Kind of expand on that. How about like this year as well?
What's like specifically like collaboration Ways and Means this year? Yeah, so I mean, one thing that we did this year was like when we tried to get the budget passed this year, we worked with Ways and Means and tried to see like the vision that we had with Dylan and kind of worked to see what Ways and Means won for that. And so we kind of talked about what we thought was needed in the budget, and you guys accepted our budget. Obviously, we had to make drastic cuts to the budget due to what happened on Friday. So kind of what my goal is for next year is to really work and make some reforms so that next year we can kind of streamline our resources between the finance secretary and Ways and Means committee, so that next year we're working together so that we know, okay, here are some of the things that have happened in the past that are problematic and some issues that need to be changed. And so kind of my goal is just really work with the Ways and Means committee and chair next year to really kind of reform kind of some of the disconnect that we had this year, and really kind of work in the summer to kind of talk about that disconnect that maybe existed, so that next year we can really implement the reforms we get from the external reviewers that are like so necessary.
That's time. All right. President Humphries.
Talk about how during your time as VP, you were involved in major financial reform decisions and what you learned from that.
Yeah, so I mean, we started the auditing process this year, so that has been a major reform in the sense of making sure that RSOs aren't overspending. And so I'm really looking forward to expand that. So we're going to be able to have more auditing next year and really kind of work up on what groups are spending on. Another thing that we did this year was we got the club sports transition finalized. And so really working closely with Maya and Dylan and working really close with Ernie and administrators really kind of showed me like, okay, you know, even us in SGA, we don't know all the financial information. So being able to be in those conversations with administrators is really super important because it allowed me to say, oh, okay, this is the perspective I thought that I heard from people in the SGA. But then I was like, oh, actually, it's not that way. And I found out like, oh, the club sports transition I thought was honestly pretty simple and it could have been done sooner. But we worked together and we collaborated and we got that done. So I would just say that being vice president this year, it really allowed me to kind of like see the administrative perspective and kind of hear what they think and like hear from like the financial experts on some of the reforms that we need to do and like the direction we want to take to make that change.
All right. Chair Stamen.
Hi. So when talking with the former chair of Ways and Means, they mentioned to me that last year there was a lack of support from the former Secretary of Finance and other folks on SGA leadership regarding financial initiatives that came up. I have served in this role for almost an entire academic year, and I've had similar issues come up, not in the same scope necessarily, but so I wanted to ask, with that in mind, how do you plan to collaborate with the next chair of Ways and Means to effectively advocate for financial reform, ensure equitable distribution of responsibilities, and prevent either of you from becoming overburdened with the amount of work you do?
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that me and the Ways and Means chair can essentially become like best friends. I mean, the relationship that is between the finance secretary and Ways and Means chair is incredibly important, especially now given the state of the SATF. There's so many major reforms that we need to do. There's so many like insane recommendations that we're going to be overloaded with when we first get them. So having a really good relationship with the Ways and Means chair is super important. Understanding their perspectives, understanding maybe some of my perspectives, and how we can collaborate what their experience, their processes, and some of the executive branch, and then really make it a whole cross-branch collaborative effort between Ways and Means and SGA. So it's not just, finance secretary, Ways and Means
30
chair
seconds.
doing everything financially, but we're also able to work together so that we're able to educate the rest of the SGA on some of the major reforms that we need to do.
All right, last question, Senator Trump.
So in your application, you mentioned that you work closely with Secretary Bellerive to create the process through the bylaws that will create a capping formula for the SGA budget. And you also mentioned that one of your top priorities would be, quote, erasing the SGA deficit. I was just wondering if you could elaborate on those 2 points more.
Yeah, I mean, so when I applied, we actually didn't really have any confirmation from Saco Finance Chair on what the status of the SGA deficit was. So I was actually uncertain if we were able to eliminate that, but thanks to the work of Dylan and Meyer, that got eliminated before this year ended. And so we're gonna have $80,000 left over, so that next year the beginning balance isn't in the negative. And so what was the other part of your question actually?
You mentioned working with Secretary Bellerive to go through the process of creating bylaws for creating the capping project.
Yeah, so I mean, Dylan, me and Colin split up cabinet over supervision this year. So me and Dylan have worked really, really close all year in terms of what we wanted to make a future SJ budget cap would look like. Because before this year, we could have made the SJ budget like $600,000, and so we don't want to do that. So now at least we have something implemented in place so that if the SJ does want to raise their budget in the future, they're not going to be like hyper overinflating it.
All right, that was the 4 factual questions. So a question.
No, it's not a question.
Okay.
It's
Okay. Chair Stamen.
This is just to clarify a point you made because I think the way it was phrased was kind of weird. But I understand what you're saying, so I just want to clarify it. We are not going to end on a deficit because we're using all our long-term reserves. We were notified by Saco Finance of this last month. And the ending fund balance that folks are seeing that I just saw from my presentation, that's just our ending fund balance for this S1. I started off those allocations assuming we're having 0 coming back. Did not account for the deficit at all, assume that we are going to cover it because we are. So just want to make that point clear because I think the way you answered the question was a little wonky.
Thank you. It's the reserves that are covering the deficit, and then what Maya did was make extra cuts to make sure that the beginning balance is good so that we can make sure that the projections that we have from Saco Finance right now are accurate and that there is a little bit of a wiggle room in case some of those projections are a little bit off.
It's a point of clarification.
Oh, clarification.
Point of information is a question of fact.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. All right. Well, thank you, appointee. All right. So, does there exist a need for debate on S96? All right. With no indication of a need for debate, the question is on the passage of S97. Motion to appoint Dale Leone to the position of Secretary of Finance. All those in favor of passing the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no.
No. I call for a roll call vote. Can we do that?
All right. Associate Speaker will arrange the roll call. Senate will stand in a brief recess. Please remain in your seats in silence. This will only take a few seconds. The Senate will be in order.
Okay. If everyone could just be quiet so I can get everyone's name. Adeni. It'd be yay, nay, or abstain.
This is on the passage of S97. We're in a roll call vote right now.
And can please everyone be loud? Everyone just needs to be loud and clear. He called for a roll call vote. Yeah.
It's already been moved. Yeah.
Adeni. Ariola. Can you repeat that? You could just be yes, no. Or you could just be yes, no. Bauman. Beltrami.
No.
Black.
Yes.
Borowski.
Yes.
Uchisova.
Here.
We're doing yes, no voting. Yes. Centenaro. Chamu. DeMarco. Dami. Duarte. What do I put that as? Just no. But that's not a no vote. Tuivetti.
Yes.
Eze.
Yes.
Patricio. Can you please repeat that louder? Gato. Jermaine.
Yes.
Hercules. Kieran and Donnie. Holohan. Ibrahim. Imran. Jame. Can you please repeat that louder? Kim.
Yes.
Kim. Second Kim. Lequier. Please repeat that louder. Lay. Lafort.
Yes.
Molesky.
Yes.
Malari. Monda. Mazondo.
No.
Mello.
No.
Nashi.
Yes.
Nevins. Win. Is that a no? Onyeka. Patuk. Fawn. Prabhakar.
Yes.
Rabin. Rue. Sarna.
Yes.
Sharma.
No.
Shi.
Yes.
Stamen. Tao. Tren. Trung.
No.
Burma. Walker Hoover.
Abstain.
Senate will stand in a brief recess as we count the votes. 22 were in the affirmative, 18 were in the negative, and there were 2 abstentions, meaning that S97 passes. The Senate will now consider S98, a motion to appoint Julia DeMarco to the position of Secretary of the Registry. The appointee is now welcome to approach the podium.
All right, so Julia, chair of the RSG committee, she was the most qualified out of any of the candidates that applied. She showed an excellent fervor for the topic as well as being qualified. She very clearly had a passion for the registry, as well as seeing her skills over my tenure as a senator on UROC very much impressed me and told me that I would have no questions about the efficacy of her work in my administration.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, I just want to say thanks for the nomination. I'm currently a senator on UROC, so I work daily with RSOs. Additionally, I've worked on several RSO initiatives like the Registry Reform Task Force, and I'm the chair of the Registered Student Group subcommittee. So I've seen a lot of projects regarding RSOs and the registry, and through my work on these committees, I've also just consulted with a lot of other people who work with RSOs, like the source and student union staff, and the current secretary of the registry. So I think I have a good grasp of the current issues, what works well, what doesn't, and then upcoming projects that should be completed / started next year.
All right, we'll move on to the factual questions. As a reminder, 4 questions. Each question will be allotted 2 minutes, and you're allowed a brief follow-up. Senator Trump, 2 minutes.
Okay. So you mentioned in your application some of the examples for reforms that you would be looking into would be reopening and monitoring like event-based booking, as well as making a tiered funding system and increasing auditing of RSOs. So I was just wondering if you could elaborate more on that.
Yeah, so those were all things that I've just gathered as ideas from mainly student union staff and the source, and obviously other senators like yourself. I think there's some clear issues with funding and with event space booking. And I would really like to work with administration and with other staff on that. The tiered funding, while I obviously don't have much knowledge on the funding systems, was just an idea that Lloyd, the student union staff person, told me that was done in the past, and he would love to see someone work on that. So that's just an idea I would like to run by people next year. Obviously, that doesn't really, the area of funding doesn't, it's not really my strong suit, but I would love to see that. And auditing, I would love to work with UROC to audit more clubs, because we definitely have the capacity to do so. And I think with a lot of our super old RSOs, they could definitely stand to have their documents looked at again, just for the sake of, keeping everyone on the same page and making sure everyone conforms to the same rules, which are, changing.
30 seconds. Oh, that's it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. 3 more questions. Senator Walker Hoover.
Monday, we had the UROC meeting, and you said you look forward to working on chartering. Is that still in your plans?
Totally. I thought that was an incredible idea. For those who weren't at the meeting, Senator Walker Hoover had a great idea of a charter system for, and I'm sure you could explain it better than I could, but, like kind of a pilot program for new RSOs to kind of prove that they have the longevity, they have the capabilities to become like a full-fledged RSO. And I love that idea. I think that's a great way of mitigating the amount of new RSOs we get every year. And I would love to continue working on that. I think that has a lot of potential for not only monitoring RSOs, but making sure they're better equipped to become RSOs, and that would take stress off of the source, that would take stress off of us. So that would not only prevent RSOs from becoming RSOs, but it would also just make sure that they're better equipped in general to be a functioning club.
2 more questions. Secretary Bellerive.
Yeah, so you mentioned in your application that you want to do a tiered funding system. And as you know, that requires a lot of knowledge of the funding system. So you would probably have to work alongside the Secretary of Finance. I was wondering, and in my current role, I work a lot with Rania. I talk to her every week almost. So I was wondering if you see any complications working with the next Secretary of Finance, seeing that you don't think that he was qualified for the position. Thank you.
Yeah,
Let's try to keep the questions factual.
I have no objection to working with anyone. I think the way I vote in Senate has no impact on how I would perform as Secretary of Registry, and who I would be working with. I'm obviously open and willing to work with anyone, regardless of how I may have voted. I think all of the nominees are equipped for the role, regardless. And yeah, that's all I would like to comment.
2 more questions. We're gonna let Secretary Heblow. If no other questions, then we'll get
Hello. Point of clarification: are senators allowed to vote if they're like going up to the if they're going to get confirmed? Like, don't they have to abstain, or is that like up to interpretation?
Yeah, I mean, according to Robert's rules, it's expected that they abstain. It's not mandated that they abstain. But for the interest of decorum and the appearance of neutrality, then I would expect senators to abstain for their own confirmation.
So but last vote, like a lot of people said no, but they're going up.
I'm not sure I understood your question then.
Yeah, like if they're going up to get confirmed, right? Like, but they're also voting on other people. Is that not a conflict of interest?
Not necessarily.
No.
I mean, that what I just said before applied to their own
position.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Thank you.
They do have a right to vote.
Thank you.
On yes, President Humphries. Okay. No, we have 2 questions left. Oh, thank you.
So it has come to my attention that one of the other people who had applied and not received Vice President Leone's position that he was nominated for voted no on the confirmation. I remember this being an issue that came up a few years ago, and there was some conflict of interest issues. I guess the vote passed, but I just kind of wanted to put that out there. Maybe there needs to be some correction for the record, so there isn't like some, because that person, I think the thing was a few years ago that they should have abstained.
Yeah, I mean, as a voting member of the body, they have the right to cast a vote. It's, I believe in Robert's rules, it says that they should abstain. I mean, this again is for an appointment, their own appointment. They should abstain. I don't know if we have to.
Yeah, can we
correct.
point of order? What's done is done.
Yeah, I mean, the vote has been cast and the results have been reflected in the minutes.
Yeah, so I do have a question for the nominee.
President Humphries. Question.
And this is relevant. I just wanted to ask if you feel that you'll be able to work and have good working relationships with other members of your cabinet, especially seeing that you did vote no on one of them today. I was just wanted to see if you plan to move past that, and because it's important that everybody at least has cordial working relations.
Like I said, there's nothing personal. I'm a very collaborative person, and I understand that cabinet needs to be cohesive and friendly and respectful, and I'm 100% open to that regardless of how I voted. And I'm super excited to work with the rest of the cabinet regardless of who they are and regardless of where everyone stands currently.
Final question. Chair Tran.
Let's focus back on your qualification. First of all, how you plan to maybe
incorporate the RSG project that you are working on into your role right in the future?
Yeah, so I spent much of this semester working on the RSG initiative, and unfortunately, I don't see that going through this year just because I think a lot of people may have questions about this, but through my consultation with the source and with other people, obviously the RSG initiative was meant to be like a motion that took strain off of the SGA and with other people who work with RSOs and ESOs. And it was very clear that, opening up applications for RSGs would do the opposite for the source and for student union staff. And I just felt like, although it would be greatly helpful for us, it may not be helpful for other people, and we have a responsibility to serve them as well. But I would love to see a pilot program for the RSG happen sometime next year or the year after. I'm hoping that we could have a senator chair the RSG subcommittee that I could sit ex officio on. Initially, I have a lot of documents that I would like to see go through the Senate floor next year, but it's very clear that there's a lot of consultation that still needs to happen, and there's a lot of registry reform that still needs to happen. So, as secretary, I would love to continue those other reforms and simultaneously work on RSG because I think it was an awesome project.
All right, that was the final factual question. Thank you to the appointee. Does there exist a need for debates on S98? All right, there being no indication of a need for debate, the question is on the passage of S98. Motion to appoint Julia DeMarco to the position of Secretary of the Registry. All those in favor of passing the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. All those abstain say abstain. The ayes have it, and the motion passes. The Senate will now consider S99, a motion to appoint Kira Cook to the position of Attorney General. The appointee is appointee and sponsors recognized to introduce.
All right, guys. So, is it off again? All right, guys. So you might recognize this appointee. Kira was the acting attorney general, then appointed actual attorney general, and I mean it's hard to get more qualified for the position than be the attorney general. So through a display of her own ideas and initiatives that she has going forward, resume of her past experiences in the SGA and the work she's done here, as well as just showing a passion for the subject in general, as well as getting many glowing reviews of her work as Attorney General from everybody. I think it's pretty safe to say that Kira is the pick for this position, and I'm very glad to have her on my team.
Oh, sorry, I'm really short. Thank you, Michael, for all your kind words. But yeah, I am super excited to continue to be AG next year. I think it was really exciting for me to be able to step into the role this year as well, which I was definitely not expecting, but has been super fun for me. And I'm so excited to continue into next year. So yeah.
All right. 4 factual questions. Senator Trung, 2 minutes.
So you mentioned in your application about your time like in conduct advising and as acting AG and now as AG. I was just wondering if you could elaborate more on like the projects you're working on and how you're gonna in the future better support conduct advising SLSO, as well as the work you're currently doing in USC.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot to that. So conduct advising is definitely a passion of mine. The conduct advising office is always what I tell people, which is one of my favorite things of UMass. So what we've been working on, essentially, well, what I've been working on a lot is the promotion of that office, because I think essentially even within Senate ourselves, we're not super familiar with the program. So that's something that I'm working on, getting everybody familiar with what conduct advising is what we do, why it's important, and when you can come visit us if you do need to come visit. So basically, I have met now with the director of legal studies. I have met with the advisor who works on the newsletters for legal studies in poli-sci, and have got conduct advising posted in those newsletters for the upcoming weeks and throughout the summer. On top of that, I am working on getting in touch with the director of the political science department to get in front of their classes to have presentations for things like hiring and other things like that, or even just to go in front of like a political science class or a legal studies class to start only. This is what we are, this is what we do, and just give a general kind of overview. Because I think, again, a lot of students just aren't
30
aware
seconds.
that it's out there, here, and kind of available for them to use. So in terms of conduct advising, promotion is a big thing. Also, working with the staff that I have and going through the hiring process that we're going to do over the summer, and working through that process and getting some new conduct advisors and training those conduct advisors. I've also been working with EOA to get us Title IX trained, which will be super helpful. Just because.
2 minutes.
Yeah. Sorry, I have a lot. So if you have any specific questions, just ask me.
Point of clarification. On the application, I don't see a way to access it.
We were having some technical errors with that.
I believe that's okay. Yes, so it's linked to the motions packet. If you go under relevant materials here, you click on that folder, and then it's outside of the document that was provided by the president-elect. It's titled "Copy of Attorney General Cabinet Application." Are you looking for the resume or the application?
The application.
Oh, application. Okay, it should be in that larger folder. Is anyone else experiencing troubles with this? All right. Okay. 3 more questions for the appointee. Chair Stamen, 2 minutes, starting now.
This is a conversation I think you and I had a couple weeks ago, but I wanted to make it more a little bit public information, I guess. So I wanted to ask regarding projects with SLSO, because I know their office is really overworked, and I think we were looking for some initiatives and projects to work on to try and to streamline things for them a little bit. You mentioned that they're using Microsoft Excel for their cases. So could you talk about that a little bit more, and like what you're thinking about doing for next year to help ease up things in their office? Maybe it's too early to ask, but wanted to ask and put it out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a great question. I think it brings to the attention what SLSO is currently working with and the problems that they're facing with the operation of their office. So that's something that we have been discussing in the SLSO AC committee. So what I know about it right now is they actually might have a bid from a case management system that we're actually going to discuss on Monday at our next SLSO AC meeting. So I'm hoping that on Monday, we will find out that they have some sort of system that we're going to be ready to kind of switch them over from Excel to this case management system. Because if anybody knows case management, doing it over Excel for legal stuff is totally not cool. So we're trying to get them in somewhere more formal and helpful and conducive to their everyday work. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. Essentially, the problem with it is that we couldn't get some contractual agreements between the university and the case management systems, is what I was understanding. It wasn't even a cost thing. Because I believe the case management system they were looking at before was actually free. It was just a terms and conditions thing. But I do believe, hopefully, they have some sort of system that they've found to be sustainable for their office, and we're going to discuss it in that meeting. If not, that will be my primary goal. And I know that some folks in the SGA who have experience with things like Excel were willing to help SLSO maybe get some more operations kind of streamlined.
Secretary, Vice President Leone. 2 minutes.
Not yet. What was I gonna say? So the Attorney General, the relationship they have with SOSO is very important. So can you just talk about like the relationship you already have with SOSO and like how you like look to like improve it next year?
Yeah, absolutely. So from what I know right now, I believe that the relationship that we have with SLSO is pretty good, and hoping only to get better. I've been meeting with Attorney Farrell multiple times over the semester. I also have worked with Attorney Farrell closely as a conduct advisor. So in the conduct advising office, we do a lot of stuff where we're dealing with legal issues. So I work with Attorney Farrell a lot because we're dealing with some adjacent things. In addition, Attorney Daniel, which we don't do a lot of stuff with because she's GSG's representative, I work with her a lot, and she's been coming into a lot of the meetings that I've been having over the last couple months when I've been in the role. So working with them and meeting with them, addressing their concerns, kind of being that bridge between SGA and the SLSO office is something that I've made a primary goal of mine, especially in terms of the director search, because I think that the director search is something that's important and was postponed and was told to me that was postponed. And that's something that I think is of great importance to all the students, that we want to make sure that this free legal services office that we have is able to handle the students that they are getting in intakes. And I think that that is something that a lot of us have a very big stake in, and that's something that I'm also working with them to help reduce their problems in that office and reduce their workload, because they're people, and it's come to a point where it's hard for them to answer all of our concerns and our emails and all of that. And unfortunately, a lot of what we do, bylaws, conduct advising, all of that, unfortunately has legal things that we need answers on. So I think that it also makes our process easier to have a good working relationship. And I think that we're getting there, and we have a good relationship as far as I know.
That's time. We have one more question for the appointee. All right, seeing no more questions, does there exist a need for debate? All right, there being no indication of need for debate, the motion is called, and the question is on the passage of S99, motion to appoint Kira Cook to the position of Attorney General. All those in favor of passing the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. All those abstain say abstain. The ayes have it, and the motion passes.
Thank you.
I have two clarifications. I meant to mention this earlier. All the secretaries designates will be sworn in after the string of special orders. I also have another, just a clarification to a point brought up by Secretary Heblow. So in this wonderful Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised 12th edition, I'm just going to read out a passage here, or a clause. Page 385, the citation is 45-4, and it's entitled Abstaining from Voting on a Question of Direct Personal Interest, and it reads, no member should vote on a question in which they only use masculine pronouns here. He has a direct personal or pecuniary interest not common to other members of the organization. However, no member can be compelled to refrain from voting in such circumstances. Okay.
Can I say something? Okay, guys. So is this still on, or is it?
Should be on.
Oh, okay. So
is this a point of clarification, or?
Yes, this is actually yes. It's a point of clarification.
Okay.
So just as an FYI, the way I read the bylaws, the question should be as pertaining to any questions you may have about their qualifications for the position. And the only reason I say that is because we have used all 2 minutes and all 4 questions for every cabinet position, and we are at the 3rd of 10. So if we continue at this pace, we will be doing cabinet confirmations until 10:30. So please keep the questions necessary, because we do actually have 3 motions and business not anticipated to after this, and I would like to go home tonight. So thank you. That's not against anybody in particular. I just figured for the sake of everybody's time, including our guests tonight, we may want to keep things punctual. Thank you. With that being said, am I?
Yes, thank you for that clarification. It's true. Questions have been pretty good so far, but we are on a tight schedule. So that said, the Senate will now consider S100, big moment, a motion to appoint Jacob Nevins to the position of Secretary of University Policy. The appointee and the sponsor are recognized.
So you may have seen this guy around here before. Jacob Nevins applied for Secretary of University Policy. He very much impressed me with his passion for the position, passion for the subject in question as the Secretary of University Policy. He's already given us some great materials that I would very much like to implore him to explore further going forward, as well as that I've been observing his work in the SGA this past year very closely, both his everything he has been doing. And I've been very impressed by all of it, and I would like to see it continued in a position more adept with the resources he can be given, such as Secretary of University Policy. Once again, as with all my secretary appointees, I am 100% entirely confident in his ability to excel in his job.
Yeah, I guess I can just talk about a few of the things that kind of led me to this role. So I'm just going to list the things that I would have to do. I have to represent the SGA at the Faculty Senate. Well, I am a member of the Academic Matters Committee, and I have a phenomenal working relationship with, I hope, all of the Faculty Senate members there. I speak with them bi-weekly. We've worked together on many things. We've shared opinions, we've disagreed, but we've been able to collaborate and work for students. Going down the list, I am the SGA liaison to the RAPM union. Well, next year I will be an RA. And who is better to work with the SGA and with the RAPM unions than an SGA representative that is an RA? It might be timed, or can I continue? Okay. I have to work with the agencies, among other many organizations that the SGA works with to represent, including student businesses. I know the people. I know what to do. I have experience from my time on USC. And as Michael said, I'm ready to apply the knowledge that I have grown over this past year to cause some good fundamental change.
And that's time. The appointee will now yield for 4 factual questions. Senator Trung. 2 minutes starting now.
Sorry, I have questions for all the appointees, for those wondering. So you mentioned in your resume, like your experience and how you want to update the Student Bill of Rights, consultation form, and really start student engagement from the ground up. I was just wondering, what exact action steps do you plan on taking to engage the students? You know, we see historically it's very hard to get the student body engaged, as well as how would you tackle any challenges either from within SGA or with engaging students or with admin?
Engaging with students is the main thing the SGA has to do. Yes, we're the Student Government Association, but we are leading a union of students. And if we don't have the students behind us, there is no validity to anything that we say or do. In regards to how I want to change that, we have subsidiary bodies that have great access to the students, and that is specifically mentioning the Residence Hall Association, which in this position I have to go to. And I have to work with them. And by utilizing that resource that the SGA has access to with the House councils, we can get to students where they are, not at forums on our, Instagram accounts, but meeting them where they're at, going to their dorms, knocking on their doors, and making sure that they know that these forms that we're sending them, these consultations, they are very important, and we can't cause good legislation without the backing of the student body. And it's them that are going to be making that change, not us in this room or in the office downstairs.
Chair Sarna, 2 minutes starting now.
In your application, you said I actually really like that line. It said turn organizing into legislation. But just given how bureaucratic everything is at UMass, especially with the shared governance, how do you think you're going to manage the expectations of students who want quick policy changes, but just given how the slow pace of change that actually happens, how are you going to balance that and also communicate that?
Yeah, and I think that by changing the way that we interact with students is how we can overcome, as an SGA in whole, writ large, not just me, by going where they are, by seeing them, we can talk to them directly and explain to them these processes. Explain, oh, well, we want to get a new course. Well, it has to go through this committee and this committee and this committee, and it has to get approved by this guy and this guy. That way they know the processes, they know what we're dealing with, and they know why it's taking so long. And they can get updates because we're going to be coming back, and that they know who we are, and we are less intimidating. To people that are outside of this room, the SGA is intimidating. I was not in the SGA my freshman year, and if someone had said, Jacob, if you have a problem, go to the SGA, they'll help you, I would have said, nope, I'm not doing that. We need students to know that we are a resource for them, for iClickers, for textbooks that they can't afford, for grievances they have, for conduct problems. We are that resource. They should come to us, and by going to where they are, they will more likely come to us.
Questions remaining? If there are 2 more questions. Yes, Chair Tran. 2 minutes starting now.
Considering you vote, I'm just kidding. Considering you in the US committee, is there any experience or project you want to transition into this role?
I want to transition as many as possible. The things that are happening in the committees in the legislative branch, not just in us, but in every single committee, are so incredibly important. And one of the roles that I will be having as Secretary of Policy, if you so let me, is sitting ex officio on SOJEC, academic oversight, and undergraduate services. And I hope to not just bring forth undergraduate services initiatives, but all 3. Academic matters are so important. Social justice matters in the time we live in right now are so important. Getting the services that we have as prices go up at UMass are so unbelievably important. So I don't want to just bring the USC stuff up into the forefront because I've been there. I want to bring them all up to the forefront because they all have an equal level of importance and an equal level of impact.
And the final question. All right, there being no further questions, was there just a need for debate? No indication of a need for debates. The question is on the passage of S100, a motion to appoint Jacob Nevins to the position of Secretary of University Policy. All those in favor of passing the motion, please say aye. Aye. All of those opposed say no. All those abstain say abstain. All right, the ayes have it and the motion passes. The Senate will now consider S101, a motion to appoint Joshua Gatto to the position of Secretary of External Affairs.
All right,
the
guys.
appointee and the president-elect are recognized for their factual description and introduction for 2 minutes.
So this is Josh Gatto. I've been working very closely with him since he joined the Senate this semester. Even before then, he was very interested in the SGA and was staying up to date, even as a non-member in general. He has come to me with a lot of ideas throughout that have very much impressed me with the efficacy of his work, as well as just the amount of thought he puts into the things he does. I've been keeping close tabs on the work he's put through, and I have been very, very, very excited to get him on my team. The one thing I will say is that he was recommended to this position from an initial application, which we checked is entirely up to code. And I'm really looking forward to the things that Josh has presented to us, to the ideas that we have worked with him. And I am going to say it again, fully confident in him. So.
This one's a lot weaker than the other microphones. Hi, I'm Josh Gatto. Yeah, I don't have much more to say beyond the questions you guys have.
The appointee will now yield for 4 factual questions for 2 minutes each. Senator Kim. 2 minutes starting now.
Could you just I know you mentioned this a while back, but could you tell us about some of the research that you did in your fall semester just for safety stuff on campus?
Oh yeah, so when I interviewed into the SGA for the senator position to fill a vacancy, Senator Kim, class of 2028, did my interview, and I got to tell him about a lot of the research I did looking at the Clary reports of the 5 college area and some of the ways that they handle their safety.